Angela Moore here with Northern Nevada's Moore Real Estate Group. And today, this week, the question we're addressing is how much house can I actually afford? And I have an expert on the very topic for you.
How's it going, everyone? My name is Matthew Hillman. I work as a lender here in Reno, Nevada, and work for Cross Country Mortgage.
All right. So, this is one of those local trusted lenders that I'm always bragging about and sharing information. So, that's why I brought him here. How much house can I actually afford? What do you do when someone comes to you and says, I've been renting, we've got a little money saved, but can we even afford anything? Where do you start?
The biggest thing we look at is how much their income is versus their debt. So I've had situations where doctors can't afford new homes because they have too much debt. So debt is basically a one-to-one ratio in terms of lowering your purchasing power. So every dollar you have in debt is one less dollar you can have for your mortgage. So essentially, we look at how much your income is minus your debt, and then there's your purchasing power.
Okay. All right. So that gives you a frame of reference. Now, what about what someone can get approved for and what they can comfortably afford? How do you make those two numbers come together?
Those are a lot of it's going to be personal preference in terms of people's risk levels, but essentially we want to make sure they make a budget to understand what it's going to look like, and if they need to make any sacrifices to change their priorities so that they can comfortably afford their new payment. But our job as a lender is to show them what the most they possibly can get approved for, but that number is not always a comfortable number. So basically trying to make sure that they understand the difference between those two.
So not really a one size fits all, punch it into a program kind of question.
Very exactly right.
A human interaction is going to help you get to that comfortable answer.
Absolutely. And some of the things, like the more stable their job, they might be willing to risk a little bit more in terms of purchasing power.
Right.
Or if they're willing to have roommates. Roommates is kind of the cheat code to me. If they have some roommates that they're planning on moving in with them, then they can afford on paper a lot more money than they might otherwise be able to justify.
Because their monthly payment's going to be subsidized a little bit by that. Okay, great. Now, what do you hear? What are some myths or misconceptions when people, especially first-time home buyers, are coming to you? What are some things that they just have wrong?
The biggest one is just how much money they need for the down payment. So normally people come into my office and they say, "Oh, I need to save up to 20%." And really, you only need 3 for some of the loan programs, and sometimes there's down payment assistance. So like we had a deal last year where they were out $1,700 total for their purchase. So the cash that you have in your bank account is not a limiting factor necessarily for your purchasing power. The second is, oh, I need to have a 800 credit score, and that's not the case either. We do loans with people starting with 500.
Oh, really? Okay. Depending on what their debt to income is as
There's
well.
other variables involved.
Okay. Okay. So credit score, debt to income ratio, and then that amount they have down is going, and their work history.
Yep. And the other thing people don't realize is in terms of cash to close, they can get gifts. So grandma might be able to give them some money. They don't actually have to have their own money saved necessarily. So there's lots of different ways to get people into houses where they don't have really good credit scores and 20% down.
And don't have, $50,000 in savings or something.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, when people are saying, I can only afford a $3,000 monthly payment, what does that monthly payment include when you're talking to them?
So basically that would include the principal paying down the house, the interest, the money to the bank, the taxes and insurance. And then if there's an HOA on the property, it would include an HOA as too. So basically that gives you an idea of how much your payment can fluctuate depending on the property. Because some properties will have a lot higher taxes than others, some will have HOAs and some won't. So that $3,000 purchase price doesn't always equal an exact dollar amount, depending on those variables.
Right. I know I've worked with first-time buyers who had some building skills, some construction background, had worked in some positions like that. And so they weren't afraid of houses that were a little bit older because they had that lower property tax and maybe a less or maybe non-existent, but usually a lower HOA. So it's like, well, yes, we do have to remodel this bathroom or replace flooring, but they were willing to do that. So,
and that's one of the best ways to get into a house that you might not otherwise be able to justify if it was fully updated,
Right.
right? You might be able to add some sweat equity to the property. So it's
Right.
you do a little work, it's your own house, the house goes up a lot quicker, you
Right.
get into a cheaper price point to start with. It's a win-win
And
situation.
you have a nicer place to live because you've upgraded it according to what you want to do.
Exactly.
Right. Okay, good. So, what about the buzz topic of interest rates? How big an impact do you see interest rates? How big of a variable are they?
It does affect your purchasing power, but
Sure.
for example, an HOA would affect it as much or more.
Uh-huh.
Taxes would affect it substantially. So it's one of the variables, but it's not the only variable. And it's the one variable that we can't control. You can't go get a different house with a better interest rate. It just is what it is.
Right.
And you can always refinance your interest rates down the road. So you just
Right.
kind of, as long as it makes sense today to buy the house, start building equity, and then we can always refinance you later to a lower rate.
Right. Now, what about if you go and refinance it, say in 18 months? Do you have a bunch of loan fees again, or how does that work?
There are some costs, but a refi is a lot cheaper than a purchase.
Hmm.
And like for example, if they do it through me and they get the original loan from me, I cover all my costs on the refi.
Oh, so if
So
they stay with you, so they get their first mortgage with you, what if cross country sells it?
it doesn't matter. We can still do the refi.
So you
Doesn't
do the
matter.
refi and then you waive those fees.
Mhm.
Oh, so that's a nice savings.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I feel like I do a lot less work on a refi, so it's not fair for me
sure.
to get paid the same. So essentially,
Right.
I pass that savings back to my clients.
Right. You've already done some of the legwork. Yeah. Okay, good. So if somebody is thinking, I am so tired of paying this $2,500 or whatever I'm paying every month to rent, I have a little bit saved up. My job stability is getting better every year. What is the first thing that you would tell them to do? If we have that listener, that person here watching us, what would you tell them to do?
Tell them to talk to the best looking and most humble lender and real estate agent in town. Us,
Any team
and
will do,
anyone,
like us, for
but
example.
basically going to have that conversation early because we can put a
Yeah.
game plan together, and maybe that game plan's a year out, but maybe we're giving you things to work on for that year that you wouldn't otherwise know. And then too many people start. We're like, I want to buy this house. I'm like, well, if we talked a year ago, you'd be able
You
to.
could, yeah.
So basically, the earlier the better. There's no cost to talk to us. It's free advice.
Right.
We'll give you a game plan, let you know where you're currently at and what steps you need to take to get to wherever you want to go.
Right. That's the exact same thing I tell buyers when they're saying, "Oh, I don't want to bother you. I don't want to waste your time. We're not ready yet." You're not wasting my time. You're helping me prepare you better so that we can meet your goals and fill your needs with as little stress as possible.
Yeah.
The sooner the better. So
And I've
that's
had
great.
lots of situations where people think they're a year out and they realize once we talk to them, they could buy right now.
Yeah.
And then they don't have to wait for houses to go up a whole nother year of appreciation. They might save
Right.
them 20 grand by buying now versus later.
Right. Or see what the interest rates are doing, or, yeah, and just keep paying that rent that they're paying
They're lighting that
for
money on fire.
nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, good. All right. That's the exact same thing I tell buyers is it's not too soon to reach out and get connected because that's going to make all the difference. So reach out to us in the comments or DM and we can shoot over our guide to you. We've got a nice step-by-step guide on how to get off that renter roller coaster. So take care until next time.